Hello and welcome to my channel, your go-to source for the latest in WWE 24. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for all the updates. Let's dive right in. Roman Reigns changed the industry with his work in WWE as the Tribal Chief under the old regime. However, there was a time when Reigns was called the Big Dog, and a veteran recently stated that he wasn't allowed to be the best version of himself. For years, fans weren't behind Roman Reigns and his Big Dog moniker on WWE's main roster. While the audience voiced their concerns, the management was fully behind making Reigns the biggest star in the company and the face of the Stamford-based promotion. It didn't happen the way the management wanted, but the Tribal Chief became a driving force in the industry when he returned in 2020. In an appearance on 6 Feet Under with The Undertaker, Michael Hayes addressed the former Universal Champion's run. The WWE legend spoke highly of the 40-year-old megastar and claimed he's old school and has an edge to him. Moreover, he revealed that Reigns always wanted to be the Tribal Chief, but he wasn't allowed. It was only later that he spoke for himself, referring to the change Roman Reigns made when he returned in 2020. "You know, I've had Roman's matches for years, and he's one of the ones that has the old school in him. He could have gone through the riot. He's got an edge to him. Well, yeah, it did take a while. He always wanted to be that Tribal Chief. He just wasn't allowed to be. You know what I mean? He didn't know how to speak up for himself at the time, but he's doing okay," Hayes said. WWE confirms Roman Reigns' WrestleMania 42 match. Earlier this year, Roman Reigns returned to the promotion and won the Men's Royal Rumble match in Riyadh. The original Tribal Chief wasted no time and confronted CM Punk. After a heated promo, Reigns picked Punk and the World Heavyweight Championship for the event in Nevada. Recently, Triple H confirmed in a post on X that Roman Reigns and CM Punk will headline WrestleMania 42. Last year, the two stars and Seth Rollins closed the first night of WrestleMania. It'll be interesting to see if the former Men's Grand Slam champion captures the World Heavyweight Championship. For years, Roman Reigns stood at the center of the most dominant storyline in modern professional wrestling. As the self-proclaimed Tribal Chief and leader of the Bloodline, Reigns transformed himself from a polarizing babyface into one of the most compelling villains WWE had seen in decades. But according to a surprising claim from a respected WWE legend, things almost turned out very differently. In fact, the legend insists that Reigns wasn't originally allowed to become the Tribal Chief at all. The revelation has sparked intense discussion among wrestling fans, many of whom now look back at the early days of the Bloodline story and wonder how close WWE came to missing out on one of its greatest modern characters. The evolution of Roman Reigns. Before he became the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns was already a huge star in WWE. Debuting as part of The Shield alongside Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, Reigns quickly established himself as a powerhouse with undeniable presence. After The Shield disbanded in 2014, WWE positioned Reigns as the company's next top babyface. The plan was clear: he was meant to follow in the footsteps of megastars like John Cena and Hulk Hogan. However, despite his impressive physical ability and strong booking, fan reactions were mixed. Many audiences felt the character lacked depth, and Reigns was often criticized for being overly scripted and pushed too aggressively. Even though he won multiple championships and main evented several WrestleManias, something still felt missing. That missing piece would eventually become the Tribal Chief persona. The Tribal Chief transformation. In 2020, after returning from the hiatus during the global pandemic, Roman Reigns came back with an entirely new attitude. No longer the smiling hero, he aligned himself with legendary manager Paul Heyman. Together, they created one of the most captivating characters in wrestling history. Reigns declared himself the head of the table and the Tribal Chief of the Anoa'i wrestling dynasty. The story blended fiction and real-life heritage, referencing his famous wrestling family that includes icons like The Rock, Yokozuna, and Rikishi. This new version of Roman Reigns was calculating, manipulative, and ruthless. Instead of asking fans to cheer him, he demanded respect. And it worked. Fans who once booed him out of frustration suddenly became fascinated by the layered storytelling surrounding his character. The birth of the Bloodline. Soon after his transformation, Reigns formed the Bloodline, a faction that would dominate WWE television for years. The group included his real-life cousins, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa. Under Reigns' leadership, the faction became nearly unstoppable. Storylines involving loyalty, betrayal, and family drama created some of the most emotional moments in WWE history. Matches between Reigns and Jey Uso were widely praised for their storytelling, turning a championship feud into a deeply personal family conflict. But according to a WWE legend, this entire era almost never happened. The WWE legends claim. Recently, a respected WWE Hall of Famer made a surprising statement: Roman Reigns wasn't originally allowed to portray the Tribal Chief character. The legend explained that early discussions about leaning into Reigns' real-life heritage were reportedly shut down. At the time, WWE officials were still focused on presenting Reigns as a traditional heroic figure. They believed turning him into a villain, especially one tied to a powerful family narrative, could be risky. According to the legend, there were concerns that audiences might not connect with the cultural storytelling element or that the character might become too dominant. In hindsight, those concerns seem almost unbelievable. Resistance behind the scenes. The legend revealed that several creative voices pushed for Roman Reigns to embrace the Tribal Chief identity much earlier. However, the idea reportedly faced resistance. Some decision-makers felt WWE already had a formula for Reigns, the strong, resilient hero who never gives up. Changing that image meant admitting the previous approach had not fully succeeded. For years, WWE had invested heavily in presenting Reigns as the company's next franchise player. Altering his character direction was a major creative gamble. And yet, the gamble eventually paid off. Paul Heyman's influence. One of the key figures behind the success of the Tribal Chief storyline was Paul Heyman. Heyman has long been known as one of wrestling's most brilliant storytellers. He previously helped shape the careers of stars like Brock Lesnar and CM Punk. When he aligned with Roman Reigns in 2020, fans immediately sensed something special. Heyman's role as the Tribal Chief's wise man added another layer of intrigue. His calm, calculated delivery complemented Reigns' intimidating presence perfectly. Together, they crafted promos that felt less like scripted segments and more like intense psychological drama. Fans embraced the Tribal Chief. The transformation completely changed Roman Reigns' relationship with the audience. Instead of rejecting him, fans began celebrating his performances. Even those who loved to boo him did so in appreciation of his villainous brilliance rather than frustration with his booking. The Tribal Chief character gave Reigns the freedom to showcase charisma, arrogance, and emotional complexity. Suddenly, the performer who once struggled to connect with fans became the most compelling character in WWE. Dominance in the ring. As the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns embarked on one of the longest and most dominant championship reigns in modern wrestling. He defended his titles against some of the biggest names in the industry, including Edge, Daniel Bryan, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes. Each rivalry added new layers to the Bloodline saga. Sometimes Reigns relied on his family's help to win. Other times he proved he could defeat opponents on his own. Either way, the storylines kept fans emotionally invested. The Bloodline's internal drama. One of the most compelling aspects of the Tribal Chief storyline was the emotional tension within the Bloodline itself. Jey Uso's struggle between loyalty and independence became one of the most powerful narratives WWE had told in years. At times, it seemed like the Bloodline would collapse under the pressure of Roman's leadership. But every time cracks appeared, the Tribal Chief found a way to maintain control. This constant push and pull kept fans guessing about the faction's future. What could have been? Looking back, It's fascinating to imagine a WWE world where Roman Reigns never became the tribal chief. Without that transformation, the Bloodline storyline might never have existed. Fans might never have seen the emotional confrontations between Reigns and Jey Uso. And WWE might have struggled to find the same level of storytelling success during that era. The Legend's claim serves as a reminder that even the most iconic characters sometimes face resistance before becoming reality. A career-defining character. For Roman Reigns, the tribal chief persona became the defining chapter of his career. It allowed him to step out of the shadow of past WWE icons and establish his own legacy. The character combined athletic dominance with dramatic storytelling in a way that captivated audiences worldwide. Even critics who once doubted him eventually acknowledged his evolution. The legacy of the tribal chief. Today, the tribal chief storyline is widely regarded as one of the greatest long-term narratives in WWE history. It elevated multiple wrestlers, created unforgettable moments, and redefined Roman Reigns as a performer. More importantly, it demonstrated the power of character development in professional wrestling. Sometimes, all it takes is the right creative direction to unlock a superstar's true potential. Final thoughts. The revelation that Roman Reigns was once not allowed to become the tribal chief adds an intriguing what-if chapter to WWE history. It highlights how close the company came to missing out on a legendary character. Fortunately for fans, the idea eventually became reality. And when Roman Reigns finally sat at the head of the table, the entire wrestling world took notice. The tribal chief didn't just dominate WWE. He reshaped it,